Hello, in the lesson number 10, we're going to introduce procedures. And as you can see, again, we have a preset design space. We have our usual event handler, which is our procedures button here. And since we're going to be showing procedures on an example of the lists, there's a list viewer as well here. We're going to show the outcome of our procedure or our code um, on a display right here. What are the procedures? So sometimes in our code we need to apply the same set of commands or set of actions at different places in our code. So instead of writing over and over again that same set of actions or commands, we create a procedure that consists of those actions and commands, and then that procedure becomes a building block of our code, and we simply call that block and call that procedure to execute that same set of actions, right? So in a way, it makes our coding more compact, and it removes the clutter from our main code because we don't keep repeating the same commands over and over again. So it is very useful, right? What this could be, so say for instance, uh, at different points in your code you need to examine different lists, and if there is a certain number in those lists, you want always to replace all those numbers with some other number, for instance. And this is the example that we would show here and demonstrate how we would build such a procedure, right? So let's go to our blocks, our coding space. Uh, See here, there is a global variable, global list that's called numbers, and it's preset to have these 5 items, and we're going to use this list to demonstrate our procedure. But before that, we need to build the procedure itself, right? So we're going to go to the procedures right here, and you see there's only 2 options. We have an option, this is the action procedure that's going to execute certain actions, and this down here is the procedure that's going to have a certain outcome. It's going to return a certain result, the procedure. In our case, today we're going to build a procedure that's going to actually execute these actions of replacing the items in the list. So we're going to use this one right here, and let's see, what do we want to call it? We want to replace, so let's call it replace in list. So this is the name of our procedure, and you see also that this block is a mutator as well, and it's a mutator because we can add inputs to our procedure, and in our case we're going to need to input a number that we want to search for in the list, and we need to add the list itself, right? Because we need to have a list and we need to have a number for these procedures to work. So let's add this input, which is going to be our number that we're going to search for, and then we're going to add one more, which we're going to call a list, right? So this is going to be our list, and these are 2 arguments that we need to provide to our procedure. We need to provide the number and the list. Now, before we develop this procedure, we need to think about this. What are the possible outcomes here? So we can have that there is none of these items in our list, and then any number of them up to all of these numbers can be equal to the number that we're trying to replace. And we need to write our procedure in a way, obviously, that's going to work for all these different scenarios. So if you think back about the controls that we covered in the lesson number 9, what would be the most appropriate in this case is that we examine first whether there is this particular item in the list, and then if there is, we're gonna execute this replacement, right? So just by talking about this, we see that the proper control would be while control, because we want to execute only this procedure when there is such an item in the list, right? So we need to test here whether there is this item in the list. We go to the lists, and we need to find, right, uh, is there an item in the list, right? This here. Is it in the list? Which thing? Our number X. So we're gonna get this number X here. And what is the list? It is now a list here. We're gonna get this list here, right? So if this is true, if this is this number X in the list, we're gonna execute this replacement. So we go back to the list and we search for the block that is replace, right? So it's this one here. So we want to replace item in the list. Which one? This one. Okay, this is the list. Now, what is the index? Index at which we want to replace is the index at which this number is at the list. So for the index we need to find where is this, what is the index of this item, this number in the list, right? So this would be this one here. What is the thing? It's the same number, X, right? So we just copy. This is our item and this is our list, right? So now we're gonna know at which index we need to replace, and replacement is really up to us. So what is our objective? So to make something distinctively different, we're gonna use, say, 999. Okay, and this is our procedure, replacing list. It's gonna accept argument list, and it's going to accept an argument which is going to be number that we want to replace, and for each number in this list it's going to be replaced by 999, right? So let's see how we actually call this procedure. If you click now on procedures, once we create this procedure, if you click again procedures, you're going to notice that one more procedure is added to this drawer, and this is exactly the one that we made, replacing list. So we can now, just as any other, simply use our own procedure that we just made, right? So what do we want to do? We need our event handler, which is going to be procedures button. When the procedure button is clicked, we're going to demonstrate it on this list numbers. So we want to call our procedure, and we want, say, to replace if there is 0, right, in our procedure. We want to replace all zeros in our list, and the list is the global numbers list. It's right here. Okay. Let's space it a little bit. And what is the last thing? The last thing is that we want to basically display this. So we go to our list view. We're going to set our list view elements right here to our global numbers list, after we replace these. So what should we do now? What should we get when we execute this button, right? It's going to go to this procedure. It's going to replace all zeros, because this is what we specified, with 999. So when we execute, we should get 999 in the first place and in the fourth place, and the other numbers should stay the same. So let's just check, click here, right? 999, 999. So let's quickly check also if this works, if there is none, right? If there is no zeros. So what should happen? Let's say if this is any number but 0, it doesn't matter. So now we don't have any zeros, and we want to replace all zeros here with 999. What is going to happen? In our procedure, it's going to check first if there is 0 in our list. And this logic check is going to be false. And we know when this while test hits false, it exits the while loop. So it's simply going to exit the while loop and it won't do anything. And when we call the procedure in this case, the global numbers list is not going to change. So we're going to simply just get a display of our list as it is preset. So let's double check that. Click on the procedures and we just copy our list. There were no zeros to be replaced. Procedures are very useful, as you can tell. And now if you think about it, if you go to any of our drawers, let's see, we go to the lists, right? This is nothing else but a procedure, right? All these blocks here are procedures, just like the one that we just made, but somebody pre-made and loaded them for us here so that we can just use them. But any other that we wish to make, we just now know how to make. We made the first one and it's right here. And you can make any other procedure that you may need, and you simply build your library with more procedures along the way. Okay, this concludes the lesson number 10. Bye now.